This is Gemar Nedarim Daf Tzadi Aleph Baruch Hashem, concluding another incredible Masechta with the wonderful Chavra. And as much as we've begun a new month, the month of Shvat, we'd like to dedicate one last year as an incredible Schos Alim Neshama for Yalei ben Yaakov, giving a Hashlama to the month of Teves as well as to Masechtas Nedarim. The learning the entire Chabura should bring Rabbi Yalei ben Yaakov to a higher placing Gan Eden Shalmayla, closer to the Kisei HaKavod, and ultimately be a Milat Yesher for his entire family, and as well for the entire Chabura. If anyone would like to reach out, whether it's for the month of Shvat, for Tu B'Shvat, or any days to partner to spread incredible Torah, it's our pleasure to share this chos. We're holding on at Tzadi Amid Beis, the final daf of Maseches Nedarim. We're going to begin from the Gemara right after the Mishnah to get ourselves back into the flow of things. Says the Gemara, Yibayilahu Amra Lebayla Tameya Ani Ma'u Shateichal B'Tshuma. What is the status? Is she allowed to eat Truma if she says, I am Tameh, I was defiled? As we'll see more today, whether it was Ba'ines, whether it was forceful relationships, or whether it was B'Ratzayin. The Mishnah taught that Barishaina, they said that she is believed, that she's allowed to come in and say such a scenario happened, but then they got nervous that a woman's going to want to get remarried and still retain her ksuba. Therefore they said that she has to tavi raya lidvareha, that she's only believed if she brings a proof. So ask the Gemara, she has to bring a proof. What if she doesn't? Is she allowed to eat truma? If she doesn't bring a proof, she stayed married. We don't assume she is usher to her husband. So at what level does she stay married? Does she stay married so far that she even could eat truma? Is the shayla of the Gemara. Answers the Gemara, this is a machlekes. Rav Sheishes Amar, Oicheles, why shlotetzi lasbonel? Says Rav Sheishes, she's going to stay married. She's going to have children. And if people see her not eating truma, they're going to assume that there's something fishy going on over here. So we allow her to eat truma so that there's no suspicions and concerns about her children. Rava Amar says, Rava, why not? Efshar da'achla chulin. Says Rava, we're not worried about any concerns. She could just eat chulin. Chulin is more readily available anyways. There's really nothing to be concerned with, says Rava. And therefore, Rava does not allow her to eat truma. So a fundamental machlekes between Rava and Rav Sheishes as to whether she's allowed to eat truma. Says the Gemara, Amar Rava responds, and he explains further. Umayde Rav Sheishes in this arm love sheino yecheles. Says Rava, in as much as Rav Sheishes taught, that Rav Sheishes says she's allowed to eat truma. Why? So that there's no laws, that no one talks badly about the children. But says Rava, in this armala, if her husband dies, then eino yecheles. Then Rav Sheishes will agree she cannot eat truma. Why? Midu taima. Because what's the whole reason? Elamishom. For what? Totilaz albanel. So that no one talks badly. What's going on with the kids? We see that she's staying married, but she's not eating truma. Maybe there's something wrong with her relationship. But explains Rava, Nis Armula Vinnis Garsha, if she becomes a widow or she gets divorced, Amri, people will say, Hashta dis Nisa. Now is when someone forcibly slept with her. Now is when she became disqualified to eat truma, and not prior. So says Rava, number one, I hold she's not allowed to eat truma. Number two, you Rav Sheishes who hold she could eat truma, agree to me if she becomes a widow or a divorcee. Continues the Gemara, and that's the machlekes Rav and Rav Sheishes, is as to whether if a woman says Tameh Ani and she cannot prove her point, whether she eats truma. Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa. 4 lines on the bottom, Sadiyam and Beis, Badik lan Rava, Ishes Kayin Shenensa, Yesh la Ksuba, Oy Ein la Ksuba. Rava tested, Badak lan. Rava asked us the following question. If the wife of a Kayin, Shenensa, who is violated, and if a woman is violated, a Kayin, violated and someone had forceful relations with her, the halacha is she's forbidden to her husband. Asks Rav Papa to the Talmud, asks Rava, to the Talmidim, she's asr to her husband. Yesh l'ksuba or ein l'ksuba. Does she get a ksuba or not? And now we articulate what are the sides of the question. Since the status of a woman that was forced to have relations is the same status as a woman willing to have relations of a Yisrael, meaning a woman willingly is mizana as also to her husband if she's a Yisrael. Similarly, a woman who's forced to have relations is also her husband if she's a Kohen. Therefore, ein la ksuba. She doesn't get a ksuba, just like if a Yisrael would have relations biratzain. Or perhaps Matzi Amra Allah, or perhaps she could tell him, Anoch Hazina. She could say, listen, I'm right here, I'm fit for a wife. But what? As we turn over to Sadi Aleph, Amid Aleph, she could tell her husband, I am fit, I did nothing wrong, so don't force me to have relations. And it's the man that has the issue. What does it mean it's the man that has the issue? What it means is the fact that her husband is a kohen, that's what makes her usher to him. Meaning, she could claim from my perspective, I'm sitting here, I did nothing wrong, so unfortunately forced me to have relations, but I'm still willing and ready to stay married. You're a kohen, so it's your problem that we cannot stay married, so maybe she should, yes, have a ksuba. So those are the two sides of the question that Rava tested his Talmidim. Va'amrina lei, and Rav Papa continues and says, and we responded to Rava Masnisani. We'll bring you a proof from a Mishnah, second line of Sadi Aleph Amid Aleph. Hoimeres tameani lach. If someone says, a woman says, I am tamei, I was defiled, yesh lach suba. What's the halacha? The halacha is that she gets her ksuba. This is going with the Mishnah Rishayna. The beginning of the Mishnah said she is allowed to be believed to say she's tamei and she'll get her ksuba. B'may askinon. What is the case? Ilema, the case of the Mishnah is Be'ishes Yisrael. We're dealing with the wife of Yisrael. So now, if she willingly was mizana, she slept with another man. Klon yesh ksuba. Doesn't make any sense. She gets a ksuba. How could that be? She was mizana. And if she was forced to have relations, and she's Ishes Yisrael, her husband is Yisrael. Come Israel Gavra. She's not also to her husband. So what is the case of the Mishnah? So Rav Papa, the Talmid, improved to Rava from our Mishnah. What must the case be? Ve'ela be'ishes kayin, must be discussing the wife of a kohen. So now, what's the case? If she willingly was mizaneh, klam yesh like ksuba. Could it be that she's going to get a ksuba? Migara meishis Yisrael beratzain. Can it be any worse than the wife of Yisrael that was mizaneh willingly, who of course did not get a ksuba? So this woman, Deishes Kayin, should be no different. Elalav. So rather, what must the case of the Mishnah be? The wife of a kohen, and what happened? Be'oines. What happened was this someone forced her to have relations. She was raped. Vikatani. And the Mishnah teaches us yesh la ksuba. So we have a raya, a clear proof from our Mishnah. Say the Talmidim to Rava, Rav Papa, most notably, that we have the case of an Eishes Kayin, who by matter of deduction we've proven must be that she was ma'ani, so forced her to have relations. And what did the Mishnah teach us? Bin Mishnah Rishayna, yesh la ksuba. She gets a ksuba. So continues the Gemara and says, Ibayilu, another Shaila, we're about 10 lines down. First word on the line is Yesh la ksuba. Ibayilu, Amra labayla girashtani mau. So the Mishnah taught us that a woman is not believed to say she was defiled. She has to bring a proof to that which she says. So says the Gemara, what if she says, I was divorced? What is the status? So Amar Rav Hamnuna, says Rav Hamnuna, Tashema, I'll bring you a proof from her Braisa. If she says I was defiled, even according to the revision, the latter did in our Mishnah, the Mishnah said she's not believed to say she was defiled. Why? Because she could simply lie. Because she knows her husband has no clue. So she could, with clear conscience, claim someone forced her to have relations, because no one can know that she's lying. Why can no one know she's lying? Because the act of forceful relations is an act in private between the man and her. So that's when in the Mishnah she's not believed. Avol gabe girashtani, but says the Gemara, if a woman claims to her husband, I was divorced, that of course her husband knows if he divorced her, mehemna, she'll yes be believed. Why is she believed? Just because the husband knows what's going on. Classical the chazaka. The chazaka in isha me'iza paneha bifnei baila. She would never have the chutzpah to lie in front of her husband's face to make something up that he knows is false. And therefore, even according to the Mishnah Achroina, even according to the conclusion of our Mishnah, says Rav Hamnuna, she does not need to prove her claim, and she'll have a credibility, a believability, a chazaka, that she's able to say, I was divorced. And what's coming out, just to point out the extent of how far a chazaka goes, that chazaka is going to allow this woman who's maybe married for 20 years to go and get remarried based on the fact she said I was divorced, because the fact she has a chazaka, she would never lie in front of her husband, is enough of a credibility and an amanas to let her go and get remarried. That is the din of Rav Hamnuna, proving from our Mishnah. 20 lines down, the first one line is Bifnei Baila Amar Le Rava. Rava responds to Rav Hamnuna and he says, Adi Rabba, exactly the opposite. I'll prove you from the Mishnah, says Rava. Afilu the Mishnah Rishaina, says Rava. Originally in the Mishnah, why do we think that she's believed the Ketani Mehemna to say she was defiled? You know why she is believed? The reason is because she would never disgrace herself. She would never say that someone came and forced her to have relations unless it was the truth. So the Mishnah Rishaina, the beginning of the Mishnah, that says that she has a credibility to claim to Me'an Ilach, let someone force me to have relations, is only why, says Rava, because it's an embarrassing thing for a woman to say such, and that's why she has a credibility. Aval Hacha, but when it comes to divorce, because there are times, says Rava, that she might be provoked to overpower her husband. Me'iza, she just wants to get out of this marriage, so she'll make something up. And there's no belittlement to her as a person if she says she got a divorce. When it comes to saying she was defiled, that's an act of disgust, that someone defiled her. So says Rava, that's why there was a tzad, the beginning of the Mishnah says she is believed. But Basaif, at the end of the day, for her to claim she's divorced, she does not have that credibility, and therefore she will not have a belief. So Machlokes Rav Hamnuna and Rava, whether the woman is believed to say, Kira Ashtani, I was divorced. Masiv Rav Misharshia. Ask Rav Misharshia about 12 lines. First line is Rav Misharshia, 12 lines from the white lines. Asks on Rava, who says she is not believed. The Mishnah continued. That said, if she says Shamayim is Betinas, which we explained in the Mishnah, quoting the Ran, as we're going to see from our Gemara, what does that mean? That means she says her husband was not able to have children, her husband's semen is not potent, it was not Yoyre Kechetz, did not shoot with force. And in that case, the Mishnah Rishaina, that case, according to the Mishnah Rishaina, to Yufta de Rava, is a question on Rava. Why? Hacha de lesla kisufa. There's no embarrassment to her for her to say that her husband wasn't able to release the semen with force. She does not have any belittlement in such a scenario. Vikatani de mehemna. And yet the Mishnah said she's believed. So proves Rav Misharshia the detail in the Mishnah why she has a belief cannot be because it's an embarrassment for her to say something and that's why she has a belief. Because it's disgusting for her to say that she was defiled. Because we see in the end of the Mishnah, even a case which has no disgust, she still has a belief. So says Rava, you're wrong. Answers Rava, Kasava Rava, Hasam, in that case of when she claims her husband's zera is not potent, does not come out with the correct force, since in such a case it is not enough to loy amraf that she has to at least say ein yoyre kechetz, that it didn't come out like an arrow, she can't just say Hashemayim beini ubeinach. She has to explain what she means. She has to get involved in the nitty-gritty details of her bedroom and explain the reason she wants a divorce, because her husband did not ejaculate with the right force. If it's not that which she said, she wasn't telling the truth, Loi Amra lei, she would never say it. So proves Rava, even though it's true, it's not a disgust to her as a person, but there is a level for a Bas Yisrael to talk such a way also has a level of disgust. And that's the reason why there would be a credibility in such a case. So says the Gemara, let's flip it around. 3 lines from the white lines. The case of Shamayim is between us. In the end of the Mishnah should be a proof to Rava and a kasha on Rav Hamnuna. Why? Because this is a case in which she knows what's going on. Ubayla yadaba, and the husband knows, because he seemingly says, the Gemara knows whether it's Yair Kechetz, he knows whether the Zera comes out with force. So even though she's making a claim against something that her husband knows whether she is lying, the Katani and the Mishnah said, she's not believed. So what do we see? We see that even if a woman has the chutzpah to lie directly to her husband's face, she's still not believed. So says the Gemara, kasha on Rav Hamnuna. Answers the Gemara, Kasava Rav Hamnuna Chanami Gufa Amra. Says Rav Hamnuna, no. Here also, you know what she says in her mind? Hey, yada. It's true, my husband knows that we had relations. Meaning she rationalizes. And she looks him in the eye and she can lie to him with clear conscience. Why? She says he doesn't know whether the Zera comes out with force, so answers Rav Hamnuna, sticks to his guns. So the Gemara sticks that we have a machlaikas, whether she has the believability to say that she was divorced, whether Rav Hamnuna says the svara is because she has the chutzpah to say it to her husband who knows the truth, or whether Rava proves from the first part of the Mishnah. And we continue 3 lines from the bottom of Sadi Aleph Amid Aleph with a story. So there was a woman that called Yom Ditashmish. Every day after she was together with her husband, they had tashmish. Mikadma masi yadei legavra. She would wake up in the morning and she would wash her husband's hands. One morning, she gets up in the morning and she brings her husband a cup to wash his hands. Amar Allah, he turns to his wife, he says, Hadam Milsa, what's going on over here? No, we weren't together last night. Why are you washing my hands? Amar Allah, she turns back to him and says, what? Imkain, if you weren't with me, then who was with me? Chad min nachrim. It must be one of the Goyim as we turn over to Sadi Aleph. Amid base, she says it must be that one of the Goyim Ahaloye, one of the Goyisha perfume merchants, Tavehacha Inna that was here today, Iant Loi Dilma Min Hain. If it wasn't from you, then maybe it was from them. So the woman is sitting there trying to wash her husband's hands. When he says, what are you doing? We never were together. She says, well, someone was with me. If it wasn't you, it must have been someone else. So does she have a believability in such a case? Says Rav Nachman, no. Amar Rav Nachman, we have to suspect she wants to marry someone else. Let's be mishasha b'mila, and there's no substance to her words. And of course, the chiddush here is that even though there are some supporting details, there are some facts that she always washes her husband's hands, so that seemingly shows she's telling the truth. Even still, a woman does not have the credibility, as our Mishnah taught us, to say Tamei ani lach. And a similar story, Yitzah 4 lines down, Sadi Aleph and Beis, to Ave Badicha. That one day she wasn't doing well with her husband, she wasn't on good terms. Ba'ade Gavra with her husband. Amar La. And she said, so Amar La, he says to her, Inna Maishna, what's going on? Why are you upset? You look down. So Amra Lei, she responds, "Me olam lo yitzartam b'derech eretz." You never caused me pain, but derech eretz is a lashon naki ki ha'inna. You never caused me pain like when we were together last night. It was a very painful act. And she says to her husband, the fact that the act of tashmish of intercourse caused me so much pain is the reason I'm not such a good mood now. Amar Allah, her husband responds, La v'yadavilsa. What's going on, Aina? We weren't together today. So what are you talking about? Amr Alei, she says, what's going on? Imkein, if it wasn't you, Halinachan Naftuye, these naived merchants, Davi Acha Inna that were with us today, Iant, Lo, Idamachan Min Hain. If you weren't the one that was with me, then maybe it was one of them. As we're seeing a very similar story, that she has some supporting details to that which she says. Says the Gemara, the same din, on the first white line, Amr Lahu Rav Nachman, Lois, Teshkicha Ba. We don't believe her. Why? We have to be suspectful that maybe she put her eyes in someone else. Maybe she's just making up this story in order to be able to get divorced and marry someone else. Continues the Gemara with a similar vein, a similar story about a suspicion of Zinos, Ugavra, Dahave, Maharzik Bebeisa, who v'intisa. There was a man who was secluded with a woman in the house. With which woman? The woman of the house. Let's say Reuven is in Rachel's house and he's in seclusion with Rachel. All asa mari debese. And who comes home? Rachel's husband shows up one day. And what happens? Parte noyif lohutza va'arak. So Reuven, who were suspectful, what's going on over here? Why is he being secluded with Rachel? He breaks through the trees, the palms, and the husband sees him, va'arak, and he runs away. So now the question is, do we have to be worried that this woman Rachel was mizaneh? Amar Rava on the last medium-sized line, it's a sharia. Says what, Rava? The woman is allowed to be with her husband. Why? Isa David, Isura, if this man, if this Reuven actually did an Isser with this woman, he would have hidden the fact that he ran away in clear daylight and he ran away in a way that the husband saw him is proof unto itself that they did not do an Aveira. And a similar story on the first very wide line, there was a certain suspectful adulterer who came into the house of a certain woman, Asai Gavra, and the husband came home, Salik Noif Isa Bikli Baba. And what happened? The potential suspectful adulterer hid behind the doorway. And what happened next was Avimachton Tachle Taman. Vitaminoi chavoi. That what happened, there were some vegetables on the floor. And there was a snake that had eaten from these vegetables when everyone wasn't there. So the owner of the house bent down, sees some veggies on the floor, and goes to take a bite. Without his wife knowing. So his wife knows that the snake ate from these veggies. This husband bends down to eat from the veggies. And now who's hiding behind the door? The suspectful adulterer. Omar Le'ahu Nohif. That guy who was suspectful of adultery yells out from his hiding place, Loi Teichal Min Hain. Don't eat that. Titaminun Chavya. You know why? Because the snake tasted from it. So now we have the same question. What are you doing behind the door? The question is, wait, do we have to be chayshesh that this man was with this woman? Amar Rava, a similar psak that we just had a moment ago, Insa Sharia. The woman is mutter. Why is the woman mutter? Emisa David Isura, if this man did an Isser, Nichalei Telechal Ve'leimus. If this man actually was mizana with this woman, he would have said, oh, the husband's here, he's about to die, great! And he would never have told him about the fact that the snake poisoned the veggies. As the pasuk says, Kinafu v'dam b'yedeihem. That first you commit adultery, and then you have dam in your hands. Says the Gemara, Pshita, what's Rafa bring a proof from a pasuk? It's obvious if a guy is mizaneh and the husband is there and the husband's about to get killed, of course he'll not tell him. So explains the Gemara, Ma'u, the psychological var, 2 lines at the end of the Amud, at the end of the Masechta. Ma'u, the Tema Yisura of, maybe he did an Isser. Hi, the Amar lei. So why did he tell the husband that the snake ate from it? Because he's happy for the husband not to die. Why is he happy for the husband not to die? If the husband dies, no one will ever know he was mizaneh. Says the Gemara, you know why? Because then the tavi insa yiluyeh. Because then you know what the wife is to him. The wife is forbidden. And mayim genuvim yimtaku. Stolen waters are sweeter. V'lechem sesarim yinaim. And bread of sorcery is pleasant. So I would think that maybe he would dafka specifically not want the husband to die. Why would he not want the husband to die? Specifically, so what happens? So that it's mayim genuvim, it's stolen waters? Kamash malon? No. Kamash malon, that he's not believed. And he would never do that. And therefore, he would never do that. And therefore what? And therefore, we do not have to suspect that he actually was Mizaneh. Hadron aloch leilu nedarim uslikala. Meseches Nedarim. Mazel Tov, an incredible Mazel Tov on this fabulous Mesechta. B'siyata dishmaya. We should do an incredible Chazara. And most importantly, we should be machazik yourself. As we finish, we should be machazik yourself for the coming days ahead. Because in reality, Meseches Nazir is a bit of a continuation. As we've mentioned many times, Nazir is a type of neder. So b'siyata dishmaya, we should all reinvigorate ourselves as we finish one Masechta to begin another Masechta. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov.